Hi, babe.
Hey, how are you?
I'm great.
Good.
I would love to introduce everybody to my husband, Blair. Welcome, Blair Brownyard, to the Dream, the Date, and the Broken Bra. I, I'm so excited because today this conversation marks my 18th episode. And when I started this adventure, which was totally crazy, I don't think I really even knew what went into it. They told me that the 18th episode was pivotal. And I finally made it to the 18th episode. And I thought in celebration to the 18th episode, I really felt strongly that I wanted you on as a guest.
Yeah,
And
thank you.
thank you so much for entertaining entertaining this for me because and I just love, like, since I met you, you've always been a yes to everything. And I know it's probably not easy coming on here. And I know we've been talking back and forth about what we want to talk about. And I think, like, our relationship and what we've been through in our relationship and just life in general and being married and what we've gone through is kind of what we thought we would talk about. And so I know it's not easy. So thank you for always being a yes.
Thanks.
And
Well, 18 is a lucky number. Definitely for a multiple of
that's
nine,
true.
it's a big deal. So
Yay.
yeah,
I know. Actually, 18 was my soccer number too. So
it was my
multiples of nines, huh?
it was my great grandmother's favorite number. Well, nine was, and any multiple nine, I kind of equated to her lucky number. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's been many tributes to you so far on my podcast from some of my guests who happen to be our friends of their love and affection for you. So now I get to share your wisdom and knowledge with everyone because you are like somebody, you're just, like I said, you're a yes to everything and you just kind of throw yourself into researching everything, finding truth, finding answers, and, discovering who you are, what your purpose is in this world, being of service to others. So I just really feel that you have so much to contribute. And with that, like, where do you want to start, babe?
Hmm. Thank you. I appreciate that. And I want to just acknowledge you for stepping into stuff that is incredibly scary and confronting, but you really did trust your inner wisdom that this is what you needed to do. And doing the podcast was a big deal. And anytime you have some inspired action, I will support it. And I think
Yeah.
you've always done that for me too. And I think that's what makes us, one thing we do really well is we constantly pushed each other lovingly upward. And when one of us is made a step upward, you said, come on, you got to see it up here. You got to come up and see what's going on up here. And the other one, kind of drags their feet a bit until they come around, and we end up teaching each other every time. And it's definitely been mutual. I think we've been back and forth in our stubbornness and been able to work through a lot of tough stuff. And it's been we've been together since, well, 13 years. We've known each other almost.
Yeah.
And then married just over 10. It's a long
Yeah.
time.
I know.
Definitely my longest relationship outside family.
I know. I was thinking about that today. I'm like, I mean, other than my parents and my family, you've been the longest relationship. But I think what I love about it is that it feels so new. Like it doesn't feel like that long. Like I still feel the excitement and I mean, we definitely are like full throttle all the time. So and like you said, we definitely like push each other to grow. And I know, like, when I was looking or Yeah, when I was like kind of going through my process of finding my mate or finding the one, I definitely had probably like this romantic notion of like my soulmate and the one, and it's this one person out there for me, and that's probably evolved and changed over time. And I love you to death, and you are my person, but I do feel like that probably has shifted a little bit. But I definitely had like my things of what I wanted in a person, and what I said to like before about like someone always being a yes, that was definitely like on my list, and somebody that who was like always willing to grow, because that was like always, I mean, like I've shared this story with you that I've always wanted, like I since high school was like, what's my purpose? And I've always been like a searcher and a seeker, and just trying to kind of learn and be curious. And that was really important to me because I had been with people that were not that. And so as I was going through the process of like finding my mate, that was really important. And I just always remembered like when we started dating, you're like, yes, I'll do that. Yes, I'll do that. Like I was in Landmark Forum and you're like, yeah, I'll do it, not knowing what it was. And to me, I think, we talk about it now as like, I see we're like a mirror or a reflection for each other to see like what we're going through. And it hasn't always been that easy, no doubt, because I've pointed the finger at you, you've pointed the finger at me. But I think now in recent time, if I'm pissed off at you or it's hard or it's challenging, I know that you're just a reflection for me of what I need to work on for myself. And I
Yeah.
think you've actually have come to that to those terms as well, which has been
Right.
kind of beautiful because it's not easy, and it's I can only be responsible for myself, but yet we're on this path together.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we both agree that like the purpose of finding a spouse is to work through your deepest, have somebody to work through your deepest wounds with, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we kind of both believed from the start. I don't know. I think it's our souls connected that first night and said, yeah, this is the one that we want to do it with. And we kind of have this road of constantly upgrading and or should I say uncovering and discovering. And that's been the process, I think, for us, is of pushing ourselves up against some really tough stuff to break through and give us what we ultimately want out of this life. So we've been very much on this, like, you look back, the landmark stuff and where I was coming from. It was so confrontational, and you do have this, as nice as you are, as I say, you're very much a pit bull, and you are a
I
tough.
don't see it.
You come from, that you are a tough soccer player, and you can push people around, and and it's great. I totally love it. It's been such a great. You're so loving about it, and you push me gently through these processes, I think.
You're being nice about it now, but when we're going through it, he's
Yeah, when I'm
not.
going
He's
through it,
not so. He's
so
not so like delicate and loving that
no,
like that.
and
I'm so
absolutely. But it's when you
this.
say we're a mirror, and the biggest that's the biggest thing I think we've realized recently is that
Mm-hmm.
um, that we create each other, and every moment I'm looking at you and I'm creating you, and I do the same with everything in my life, because it turns out I am just a projection device that's just creating the world in front of me.
Yeah.
And that's the big kick in the teeth, is you cannot play a victim anymore when you're in that position. And so anytime I'd have a complaint for you, I realized I had to look at myself. And there's
And you
the,
get so mad when I'm like,
I
I
know
flip it back on you. You're
it's
like,
true. And I do the
oh,
same thing to you. And we both have this resistance to
I
it because
know.
we know it's true.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
there is some like part of it where like I do listen even though I don't want to. I do listen to be like you're like, "Well, these are my needs." And I'm like, "Well, that's your problem." You know.
And you're right.
But I also
Yeah.
do know that like yeah, like I can give and I know like listening is a big deal for you and I could be going 100 miles per hour and as you say, I interrupt you when you're talking. I also know that, like, I've made great strides, which you might not realize because it's still like the complaint that I'm not listening. But I have made great strides because I've been conscious about, okay, that's really important to him. Let me like focus, be present, not be on my phone when he's talking. I drop things, but yet it's still a thing, right? Like cuz to you it's all I'm never going to be listening. So that is partly your story or complaint in your head that you'll keep creating or manifesting,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. What it's like they're pushing my buttons, but why do you still have buttons? It's up to me to remove the buttons.
I know
And
it's so freaking that's so freaking annoying.
I know it is. It's up to
Especially when
me. I
people,
know.
yeah, no, I get it. I'd love to go back though and talk about like when we met because that actually was probably the most favorite time of my life. Like when we met, it was like a pure adventure and adrenaline. Um, for you know when you're falling in love and I think for me I knew like our first date like you were the one and I think um I think I don't you say that you knew pretty soon but it's kind of funny our story of um
You want to tell it? You want to tell that story?
yeah, I can go. I mean, I was in another relationship. I was like with living with somebody, but I knew it was kind of like the next phase for where we were in our relationship because I think we were dating for like a year and a half or 2 years and it was like, okay, let's move in. And I think looking back now, I knew it wasn't the right decision, but obviously I was like, when I was in it, I was like, well, this is the next step that I should be doing. So let's do it. And then I had met you through mutual friends and um, we hadn't even really talked. We went to the beach on July 4th. And we hadn't really even
2009. Yeah.
yeah, we didn't really talk much that day. Um, and we were both from the East Coast but just, I was like doing my thing and you were doing your thing. And then that night, my boyfriend at the time had invited you over for a barbecue.
Because
And
he
then we
needed a
started,
grill.
yeah. And then that's when we started talking and it
Yeah.
was like purely innocent. But I think we connected right then.
That was his
And
most expensive grill ever. Yeah.
what's that?
That was his most expensive grill ever.
What do you
I
mean?
had to bring the grill over, remember?
Yeah,
Yeah, and that was the reason I was there, which introduced
right,
us.
right.
So it was all about the grill.
Yeah. And then like my housemates were trying to set you up with one of my roommate and I was like really mad and I was like, that's not a good
Yeah.
sign. And the week later I broke up with my boyfriend and then we started talking. And then we just were on
Well,
this whirlwind.
we had that first conversation in your kitchen. I remember the cabinets, yeah, and you are etched in my mind forever. The blue cabinets and the sink full of dishes, but you're just this glowing like bit of joy, and you just were on a different level than most people, and I knew it. So I think that connection we had, that first conversation, was just something special. And you are something special. So I'm just grateful that we got through, that whole thing. I mean, that was a wild ride. Yeah, we went, then back to New York and then back to San Diego.
Yeah. Well, just to
And
like get people caught up. So we dated for I think like 2 years and then
yeah,
got engaged in that time. But even our engagement was really funny because we were kind of like, yeah, we're gonna get engaged. No, but it's gonna be like not for a few more months. And I remember we went through World Works, which is another program like Landmark Forum, and it was through there that you realized you wanted to marry me, I guess.
yeah, yeah.
And then we had went to a CrossFit workout after the weekend of the training. Like it was or was it a full week? I think that was after the experience. So that was like a full week training, right?
I forget. Yeah,
It's very intensive. It's very like experiential, and you go up and down, through and back around. It's very like it's confronting. It's like the best high ever, like natural high, and just all this stuff. So through the course, yeah. And whatever was blocking Blair from taking that next step, he had it removed. Because actually, the first course before there, I had declared that I wanted to be engaged. That was the first class. And then this experience was like the second segment of a 3-part series that we had done. And this was like a week long, I believe. And through that, you cleared up whatever was in your way of wanting, one, to get married, and two, getting married to me, because there was still stuff in your way. Yeah. So after that week had ended, we had went to a CrossFit workout, but you had in that time went and did all the things, right? You got a ring.
That morning, I forget what morning it was, but I woke up and said I was determined. I had figured it out that I wanted to propose to you. And so I contacted your dad and I found a ring and I figured out a plan how to do it. And it was like the most intense 6 hours of my life.
Didn't you say the ring guy was like, "Are you okay?"
Yeah. It's like, you want the ring today? You're getting engaged today? He was so shocked. Are you okay? And yeah, and then we went to CrossFit at US CrossFit. Dan Miller was a big help. And so was Alan. Alan ran down to video the whole thing. And, so we got the whole thing on video, and Dan made sure it happened. He got us down to Swami so I could propose to you down at Swami.
Well, it was like after class too. So we did like the whole like CrossFit workout, and then he's like, okay, 2-mile run down to the beach and back. And then I remember everyone so we got down to Swami's, and then we went down to the stairs on the beach, which we don't normally do. And everyone had stopped like at a certain point that was in the class, and then you're like, come on, and I'm like, what? No, I thought you were throwing me into the water. And then you like got down in one knee, and I'm like, I'm not computing, like get up, like what are you doing? And I'm like pulling my hand away. You're trying to pull my hand because I thought I was gonna get thrown in the water.
Yeah.
And it was like I was not registering, because in my head I was like, we're not getting engaged for another 6 months, and this is not happening right here, right now. I'm in a workout,
Right.
And like, not compute. So, so then we got engaged, and then I think we were engaged for a while before we moved back to New York. So at that time then, we were like, I think we were looking at like, okay, next steps, we're getting married, and I think you were kind of stepping up from your job, right?
I was leaving the job with the Navy to go work, with the family biz.
Yeah. Which was really because I think I had said in my first episode was that where I was like, I'm always like gun ho, like, yeah, let's do it. I'll do anything. Let's give it a try. And then when I got there, I was like, wow, this is really hard. I had left my job, my friends, no family, no car, didn't know where I was going. And then you had like your family, your friends, a job, knew where you were going. And I'm like so lost and confused.
Yeah,
Like 6 months before we were getting married.
right.
And it
Yeah,
was
think about what Stephanie too feels like.
who? Oh,
Stephanie
I
too.
was like, and so it was, yeah, it was a lot. That time was a lot harder. And I think that was kind of like we had then gotten married. And I remember our first year of marriage was really hard.
Because we were back there.
We were back there and then we moved back here like 6 months later after being married, right? Like,
It's true. Yeah.
and I just remember like the back and forth. You were in a family business. I had to come back and like figure out. So I was like lost there, like not knowing what to do. I think a lot of resentments kind of. Did you have some resentment towards me
I
there?
don't think so. No, I mean,
I always thought you did because I wasn't working.
no, I mean, you were doing the IIN
Mm-hmm.
nutrition course, and I mean, it was a tough time. It was like
Because you were like,
for
we were
you,
living with your parents, you were working with your dad.
and
There
they
was
wanted me
like
to stay in New
family.
York. They wanted me to stay in New York and work there. At least his partner did, and we said no. And it was tough, yeah. And then now I'm back in San Diego working and trying to work out of the garage and all that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And
So,
then I was trying to like figure out what I was going to do for work coming
yep.
back. And I just remember it just being really hard. Like I remember our first year of marriage really, it was really hard.
It
And I
really
had
gets
my
me.
way and you had your way. We had moved twice in like a year, cross country, working in a family business, and you being confronted like working in a family business.
Yeah, right.
Um, yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think? What do you think was, and I mean, a big point we didn't talk about is you were also at that time sober, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you had been, I mean, you had been sober like for like 17 years by that point.
Well, yeah. I mean, since I was 18, I never, as they say, took a legal drink. And still I'm sober. But I don't participate in recovery how most people would see it. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's been a wild ride. I mean, this past, yeah. So, I mean, sober at 18, thinking I needed to be sober. And maybe I did, maybe I didn't. I don't know looking back. But I started doing the work on myself then. And I'm entirely grateful for everything I've done and needed to do to try to heal what I think is past trauma of family trauma. Watched a lot of alcoholism in my family, and saw it and said, I could have a problem. I'm stopping now and never drank again. And there's just nothing in it for me. I knew that there was a bad road either way. So, but with it comes a lot of rigidity
Mm-hmm.
and the inability to kind of um, open up and see things from your perspective,
Yeah.
and it was made things difficult. I agree. I was really closed off to a lot of stuff just because of that programming, which as I see it now, it's really important in early recovery, sobriety, whether it be Al-Anon, Alcoholics Anonymous, or adult children of alcoholics, whatever your thing is, and you need to get your act together. Rigidity is very important for that first initial however many years, but eventually we have to round off the hard edges and really become a complete person, which for me, I needed to step away from all of it in order to become whole and to really clean up all the areas of my life that I really couldn't get to inside the confines of, the steps of recovery, which, so, and it was breaking us apart. My rigidity and my inability to work through some really tough stuff was breaking us apart. I was angry. I was so angry.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Mm-hmm.
I was really difficult to be around a lot of times. I was just I remember punching walls back when we were at that first place we moved into. Like you said, the first year was tough. And,
Mm-hmm.
and it got me to start looking at things differently, saying, I need to go deeper here and really figure out what's going on. So, that started me on a whole different direction with Al-Anon and adult children of alcoholics. I realized how much I had been acting like a trained harbor seal my whole life, of just acting for other people to get their approval.
Mm-hmm.
And then take it a step further, you find out you're not an approval seeker, because that's such a great euphemism, but you're an approval sucker, that I would look to you and everybody in my life for approval in order to get what I needed. And I didn't even know who the hell I was.
Yeah.
So,
and it was interesting because your shit like fed into my shit, and it like played off, and then I could go into like my victim. It played like my story out from like my childhood wounds. It played my story out perfectly, right? It was like that behavior then like played out like my traumas. But then again, it's like all a mirror, right? Like as we see now.
Yeah.
But I have to go back. Like I have to say, you're probably one of the most courageous people I know, and I've always had the utmost respect and just admiration for you, because for me, like, you got sober at 18. Like that is so admirable in like my eyes, and I couldn't even imagine. I mean, I don't even drink that much, but like I can't imagine like taking that on as an 18-year-old and like staying committed to that for like, what are you at, like 30 years now? What are you, 25?
I don't know, 27, 8,
yeah.
something like that. Yeah, 28.
And
I don't even know.
and
not good at
and
math,
then like
that.
I said, you always being a yes, like I don't know anybody who throws themselves into personal development and working on themselves more than you. And even when you were in AA religiously, like you worked your program and you sponsored people, you were of service, like your whole like demeanor or your whole like purpose is of service, where like to like you see it was like for validation or approval or that. And so now it's kind of like you're going through the process of shifting that, where it's not about that intention, but it's like really a being of service, right? Being like selfless.
Yeah. And it's, there's a lot of baggage around service, as I found, is coming from a person that's incredibly looking to get approval from people. It really fed me for many years. And I really had to tap in to look at the shadow side of that, of, who would I be if I didn't have sobriety? Who would I be if I didn't have the approval of others, of getting sober young? And, it was such a Eddie Haskell moment for me, of realizing of how much I've just acted to be the good boy my whole life without ever really exploring what it means to be the bad boy. And that's always there. And I suppressed it for so long. It turned out to eventually it needs to come out. We need to integrate the dark and the light, and to really figure out who the hell we are. Because I put myself above people for so long, and I really consider myself better than you.
Like prior. Yeah, like prior, you mean? Yeah.
Yeah, like before, like in
yeah.
I felt like I was superior, and I had this whole superiority around, well, look how great I am. I do all this good work and I take care of people. I have all these people that call me. And
when you're working on yourself, and I'm better because I work on myself and I know this, and
right.
you don't. Yeah.
and you
I got
suffered
that
from
from you.
that. Yeah, you got that from me because
I
I'm
was
an arrogant
like,
prick. I am. I have that arrogance, and that dark side needs to be fleshed out. So let me fast forward to this kind of moment that I really think really spun my head 180
mm-hmm.
degrees was that January 14th, 2020, when I had this out of body experience from pain. 6 months of pain from a neck injury that I thought was caused from jujitsu, that the pain leaves me in, one evening as I'm sitting in this office right here with you and you're consoling me. And, you don't know what to do for me because I'm in excruciating pain. I can't even function. I'm just sobbing uncontrollably. And the next thing I know, I'm outside this window right here, looking in back at us sitting on the couch over here, on the chair over here. And I'm outside my body and I'm looking at the whole thing going on. And you're there consoling me, or what I thought was me. And I got to have a little travel through the world that evening and visited many people, had connections with people that I'll never meet, and connected and felt the world's pain. And when I came back in the morning, the pain is gone, and I haven't had the pain since. And that I realized was a release of energy, of trapped emotion that was inside this side of my body, on my left side of my neck, that I had this twitch through grammar school that was always there. This side was always tight, and it kind of all released that night, that energy. So I realized that I'm not my body. I'm not my thoughts. I'm not my feelings, because when I was out there outside the window, I did not have any of that. It was just peace. And I realized that I am the awareness that's actually experiencing all that. And that was one of these huge turning points. I mean, there was so many points that had gotten me to that, with all the work that we had done together and the people we've seen and these courses that we took. But, eventually it all broke free that night. And, I can't explain it other than it was an out of body experience from pain. And many people that I've read about have had out of body experiences, from all sorts of things. And it's similar to even near death experiences. It's not like a tunnel, but it's similar understanding that I'm not my thoughts and I'm not my, that I've been suffering from so much crap in my head for so long that it finally gave me space. Like I had space between my thoughts and who I was. And so I realized that everything's a story. Everything that we make up is just story after story after story. And I can choose whatever story I want about what's true. So it was such an awakening experience that I am still, to this day, it's this huge mark in my life of where things really began to shift. January 14th, 2020, where I don't see, like, I'd suffered from bouts of depression, anxiety, and just not knowing who the hell I was or what our purpose was. And it shifted me in a way that now I know that I don't see how depression or anxiety is even possible anymore, because I know it's not real. I know it's just a thought. It's an illusion. And I've worked with, I've just done a lot of research and depth, just diving into all this work. And, three principles, Ram Dass, Neem Karoli Baba, The Untethered Soul was a great book that I read. Marianne Williamson's Return to Love. It's like, I just started swallowing up anything I could find that talked the same language, like I understood it now. And to believe that I have some sort of a disease or that I have some sort of character defects is completely foreign to me now. It doesn't make any sense. So I just know that deep down, we're all spirit. And that we have all these crazy games we play with each other. Our marriage game, it's so ridiculous sometimes. And we both stop and look at each other like, oh, this is fucking dumb. and we know it's dumb, but we do it because this is the game we're playing, right?
Hmm.
So I'm just, and you have had similar insights and have seen these things like I have that like, holy cow, it's all made up, and you've seen it much earlier than I have through Landmark. I mean, you've done all the work through Landmark, and you've been
Yeah,
trying to, you've
I
been doing
remember
this
I didn't
yourself.
understand, like I didn't understand like sobriety. Like I didn't grow up and like with like people really drinking. So like coming into a marriage and like a family like yours with that history, like I just didn't understand it. And so it was it was really shocking to me because yeah, like I had like depression and anger and all that stuff, but we didn't use like alcohol to cope with it. It was more like just yeah, like depression. And so when I would get the rages and the anger and like this, I was like I'm just like this, like, you know, I don't know, I would go into my victim mode, I guess, but it was just yeah, it was interesting navigating it, but um like again, I mean, there were lots of times where I think both of us wanted to quit, and I think you always had, because of my history, that was easy for me to be like, yeah, I think we're good. We're just, we got to go our separate ways. But you, because you have that endurance, you're like, no, we're sticking this through. And I mean, yeah, we've done the work, like therapists, other, like, just, like we're constantly like up leveling, and
Yeah.
now I'm clear, like, I'm clear you're my person, that I want to journey this life with. Um, and now it's like, it's fun. And our communication is like a 180 to what it used to be. And I'm grateful. That was probably one of the hardest days, nights, because that was like in the middle of the night that was happening. You had been sleeping on that recliner for months, and just being there, like, do I take you to the emergency room? Like, you can't take pain medication. Like, so you weren't, like,
I
you
was.
go that you weren't, no, you weren't taking.
I was taking the Norcos that they gave, but eventually I said I can't even take this. Doesn't even
I don't
help.
think you took them long though, right? Because you weren't taking really anything. I don't think
No,
you were
I was
taking them
well.
long. Oh no, it
Um,
was just like to get through the nights, right? Like just
yeah,
like so you could
just
sleep.
so I could sleep. I'd suffer through the days and then suffer through the nights, and it was like,
And you were sleeping on the recliner for months. And
yeah,
I just remember being there and like I'm like, do I take you to the like ER? Like I don't know what to do. And we
yeah,
were
I
just like
know.
both crying, um and yeah, it's like, as hard as that was, it was probably beautiful because of what has like unfolded since.
Yeah,
What do you think? I mean, I know that was a really pivotal moment, but why? Like, I think too, when it happened, I went back and it was like, because you were probably getting all these other signs that you weren't really noticing, it came out in like into your physical body to where it had to stop you to kind of show you, right? Like, would you agree
yeah.
with that? Because you would always get like weird things, and I'd be, and you were like kind of a hypochondriac. and
Yeah,
and you like, and I was like, can't you see the pattern? And I think it was then like we started connect, because I don't know, I felt like there was some, you had like three surgeries in 1 year, right? Like you had knee surgery, you
ear
were
surgery three
ears,
times.
like four ear surgeries from a popped
Yeah,
eardrum from surfing, and like you had like two or three surgeries in 1 year, and then your neck thing all,
right.
and actually your neck was like jujitsu, but then you had gotten that ear surgery, and that was when it got worse, right after the ear surgery, because of how
Yeah,
they had your neck positioned.
Yeah, that had something to do with it too. It all needed to happen, right? It was like every
Right.
part of that.
But
Yeah.
I was like, can you see the pattern here that's going on with these things? Like, what is trying to tell you? Then all of a sudden, it was like that
Yeah.
night
Yeah.
happened, right?
Right.
Um, what do you think has shifted in our marriage since that night
Um,
for
I would
you?
say it was, I mean, I've given up a lot of crap that I was holding on to, I think, that night. And I don't think we really know how healing works like at a cellular level,
Mm-hmm.
but I do believe that it the issues are in the tissues, as they say, that this needed to happen
She said,
to heal some deep wounds that we've been that I've been carrying. And
mm-hmm.
um and if we heal ourselves, we heal our families, we heal our loved ones, I think. So I mean, I can't take credit for it, but I'm just really grateful that that happened. It's painful. I wouldn't want to give it to anybody, but if
Right.
it gives you this kind of an opening to change everything, I'm all for it. Right. So, yeah, I mean, we've then gotten much closer. And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, can you put your finger on it? I can't really think of exactly why or how, other than we've now been exploring all different stuff together, which has
Yeah.
been incredibly powerful. And the people that we've seen in the past 2 years to explore, really to get clear of a lot of this stuff, it's been fantastic. So, yeah, I mean, I've walked away
Yeah.
from everything I used to do into a whole new way of healing and work, So,
Yeah. I'm really, it's been for me, like, I just think you're really brilliant in general. Like, you always were, like you do, you research everything. You're like my go-to person on like the news. But it's been fun talking to you because now I do think, like, before you had your like AA language, and I just could not really like wrap myself into that. And then, we had like the landmark and all of our other thing, like our other coursework that we were doing, that we would like kind of adapt the language, but there was still like that really strong pull towards AA, which just was not like it felt like the same thing over and over and over again. But now I feel like we just have really like in-depth conversations that can go deeper, but because I think there is like an openness, and like
mhm.
we are communicating. I listen to you, you listen to me, and we're not perfect all the time. Like we definitely like go resort back to old patternings, but we get through it a lot quicker now, where like before it could be days. Now it's like minutes,
Yeah,
like we can snap out of it. And I think
right.
that was one thing too that we both had was I'm very quick to take responsibility. Like I've always been the type to take I'm humble in that I'll take responsibility because
You do.
I
Yeah,
am always like know that I'm 100% responsible. And so, and I think when I did that, then that would give you permission to take responsibility so we could kind of get through it. But and now we just do that a lot quicker now. And I
yeah,
think both of us have lightened up a lot more because I think we've seen something greater. I think now we're working. We create it all, and we're like creating now, and it's like versus trying to be in survival or being in survival.
yeah, yeah. I I think I was so kind of stuck in my ways of stubborn that I didn't even know that this concept of that there are 7 billion realities in the world was completely foreign to me. And to
Mm-hmm.
realize that you have a view of the world that's 100% valid, and I would have the same exact view if I had all your experiences and upbringing and everything just the same. And it's kind of funny that algorithms of Facebook and social media really tell the tale that everybody has their own algorithm, which points to the fact that we all have our individual realities, because we all have a way of seeing it, the world, and nobody is the same and all. We have similar views, but everybody's a little different. And it took me a lot to figure that out. I used to think it was like, a limited amount of views in the world, but or something. I don't even know how the hell I even looked at it, but now I can see that everybody has a valid opinion of the world. It's, if we could all accept that and move on, we wouldn't be fighting anymore online, which has created such a just mess for our culture. It's this culture war that's just spinning off. But for us as a relationship, especially, to see you and to acknowledge you for how you see it, and to say, okay, yeah, I don't agree with the amount of cleaning that you do, but I'll let you clean.
I know. That is actually, it's funny because that still is. I think I was talking to somebody yesterday and I was like, yeah, we still argue about it. Or it's like a constant complaint is my cleanliness, or we just have different degrees. But again, it's, I don't know. I feel like our relationships, there's usually like a constant in something. And it's funny that that's like what ours is, because I clean too much. Or you don't like the way that I do it because I feel so, you say that I seem stressed out when I'm doing it. Is that?
So I just want to see you relaxed and happy. And so when I see you like furiously cleaning, I'm like, this is the opposite of what I would want.
Yeah, but don't you know
And then I have to let go and say, okay, this is what you need to do, right? And it's hard for me to do that because it's.
But you always say I'm one of two speeds.
You go fast forward or reverse, right? And but that's you too. I mean, I can't change that about you either. So, yeah.
Do you have any other wisdom you want to share?
I just think that I don't know how, and I've listened to a lot of teachers, like Rupert Spira is one of my favorites, and he's a non-dual teacher, as well as, there's many others that all say the same thing. And you go back, look at all the great teachers of the world, and they're all saying the same thing. And that is the direction towards mindfulness and sitting in awareness. And that, to me, seems like the greatest gift that I've ever gotten in my life is the realization that I'm not my thoughts, and I'm not my feelings that result from my thoughts, but I am truly just the awareness behind the thoughts. And when I can sit in that, it's absolute peace. And I can get wrapped back up into the world, because we run businesses. It's a complicated world. But I always have that grounding now that I never used to have. And that's the grounding of that. I can let the thoughts come through my head like weather, and thoughts will come and go, and they will always just keep passing through. I don't have to hold on to them, and I can choose the ones that I want to think about. I'm not a victim to my mind anymore. And so
it's like the ultimate freedom right there.
It is. Right? And it's a practice that's, it's still new to me. And I don't even know what the hell I'm talking about half the time, but that's what's true for me, most of the time nowadays, that I'm like, this is real. This hasn't let me down yet. And I don't see how it could, is that I just have this understanding of what thought is. I mean, there's, I work with Greg Klaumenzer, and he talks about the three principles, and it's mind, consciousness, and thought, and that we're all just it's not for us to pay attention to thought all the time and to really just let the stuff pass through. Um,
how do you like for a doer, I guess because I'm a doer, like how do you do do that?
how do you do that? How
Yeah.
do I do that?
How do you do that? How do you like shift from like I guess how was it before? Like you take action on your thoughts or you like think your thoughts are real or like you like you think your thoughts are valid versus shifting to just being aware like, oh, I'm thinking this or I'm thinking that or this is hard or this is not right or this doesn't feel good. Is that kind of what you mean by that?
It feels like I'm looking at the world like a movie, and that
How do you shift to that though?
I don't know. I could say you can look in that direction and start exploring what's doing the thinking. You can ask yourself that, and what's doing the observing here, and that's the true nature of what we are. That's underneath this. That I identified myself with my thoughts. I'm my depression. I'm my anxiety. I am alcoholic. I am, an Al-Anon. I'm an adult children of alcoholic. I'm all these things. And then you sit back and you say, well, what's actually experiencing all of that? And eventually you get back to, okay, there's something else behind all that. Michael Singer in The Untethered Soul, he talks about who were you at the age of 5, and who are you now? What's consistent behind all that? What's consistent behind the 5-year-old and the 40-year-old? And that is what we truly are. And so I think that's we are that consciousness behind it, which is what I kind of experienced. And it's fleeting, it definitely comes and goes, but I know that we're just all small parts of God, and we're all just, trying to pretend that we're separate from each other with this egoic mind that's supposed to be there to help us, to save us from the big bad saber-toothed tiger in survival. Um, but we only need like 5% of it. We've overused the egoic mind. So there's just such a depth of knowledge underneath the mind that we never tap into.
Mm-hmm.
And to be able to get still enough just to listen, and you do it, I know you do it, and you're very intuitive. A lot of the decisions you made in your life are just like you tap into source so quickly sometimes, and then you think that you don't do it, but you do it every time. I watch you. I mean, you are so powerful. The shit that you've done is crazy. Like between this latest job you've had and so many of the changes you made in your life, you know what I'm talking about. You just need to get still and listen to that deep voice that's underneath all of us.
Yeah, I think I'm trusting it more and more, and I'm like I'm trusting it more and not doubting myself because it's like I've listened and then it's like, oh, okay, yeah. And then I would, no, that didn't really happen. And then I think now as, I don't know, maybe age or time, like I'm like getting, um, listening to it more and it's actually becomes fun. Like it's like a game, and then, yeah, like not like watching your thoughts like a movie. But I can still definitely get stuck in my thoughts. I mean, we were just having a conversation before. I'm like, look, I'm going through the old pattern and like the new pattern right now, and I'm going to get stuck in the old pattern, or I'm like, it's so quick how I can get snapped back. But then like, it's great having a partner like on this path with me because then I'm like, look, this is where I'm at. And then you can snap me out of it. And I'm like, yeah, that's right. Cause this is where I want to be, and it's fun now. It's like, we're, like I said, we moved out of like the survival mode and into like the creation mode. Right. And now like, look at where you're at. You're creating a huge business right now out of your office that you're in. Living your best life. We do jujitsu. We have amazing friends. We travel and eat really great food and live in Southern California, like surfing and did I say jujitsu already? And
Yeah.
um, yeah, it's pretty incredible. Like from where we came from as like our where we came from as children and where we raised, like how we were raised, and to where we are now and like doing this together.
Yeah. Yeah. That healing, I think I sent a text to you and Jordan Channing earlier today. It was about that.
Oh,
You know,
yeah. Do you
we
want me to
heal
read
our,
it?
yeah,
Or
sure.
do you want to read it?
Let's see that. Hang on, let me get it. Pain travels through family lines until someone is ready to heal it in themselves. By going through the agony of healing, you no longer pass the poison chalice onto the generations that follow. It's incredibly important and sacred work. And I think we both had some agonies of healing, and it's been unbelievably challenging at times. I mean, it's between the shamanistic work we've done and just the therapy we've done. All that stuff has been incredibly powerful, to the point where I think we both come to a new place of our past and our families and everything. It's got a little friend behind me now. Somebody wants some dinner, but yeah, I mean, I am just really, I'm really grateful to you and what you brought to me and taught me in my life, and to be able to grow with you together. It's just what anybody would ask for. It's just it's beautiful. We got a great thing going.
Aw,
Hmm.
thanks, babe. You warm my heart. Oh, thank you so much. Um, this has been fun. Thank you
Has
for
it
coming on. It has
fun?
been. Yeah, I think it's been a lot of fun. I think this was
Yeah.
a great conversation, and I know you'll be back on because, like I said, you just have so much wisdom to share, and you did amazing on your first talk. I mean, you've been talking to people forever, right? And all your
I'm just talking
shares.
to you.
Yeah,
I
I
don't even know
know.
what we're doing here. Yeah.
I know. Thank you so much. I love you,
Love you too.
and thank you for being you and being on this journey with me.
Thank you.
You're my number one. You and me equals we.
Get some dinner.